But not always smooth sailing when it comes to fighting crime. Police Chief Rick Hanson back to talk about some of the big issues in our city. And actually, let's first off get to something that's top of mind for you. And that is sentencing for impaired drivers. People seem to be upset about the lengths.
People are really in an uproar in the city today. And I think what happens sometimes is it takes an event close to home for people to start to realize that, you know, what's going on with some of these laws. And impaired driving has been foremost in people's minds and a topic across this country and here for years. And people are saying, well, have we made any progress? And the reality is a lot of people are saying, what can we do to change the law? Because it just seems too many people are unaccountable for actions that are causing serious injury and death to innocent people that just have to be on the roadway. So it's first and foremost in people's minds, and I think a lot of people are seriously saying, what's going on that this country, more than any other country except perhaps the US, is still dealing with impaired driving in ways that don't seem to be effective.
So do you think that there is a correlation between the lengths of sentences and it acting as a deterrent?
Sure, absolutely. It's not just, that's part of it, absolutely. Canada and the US are the last countries in the world that keep .08 as the standard that you have to reach for impaired driving. To get to .08, most people are absolutely incapable of driving. Yet Canada maintains a level at .08. A lot of countries, in Europe especially, .02, and then it goes, it's usually around that level. I mean, random breath testing is another thing that has been implemented in many countries. In other words, in Canada, so many cases are lost because of charter arguments in regard to, did you really have the authority to pull that guy over? Or did you have the authority to put him on the roadside breath testing device? Did you have, and then you lose them because of a number of technical arguments that most people wouldn't understand. And I think it's time that people realize that there's two things that have to happen right across this country. We have to really push for random breath testing. And I know the civil libertarians will be up in arms. It's their job to be up in arms. It's my job to tell it like it is. And the second piece is just drop the levels. You know, and get the level, the per se level of alcohol impairment down to what exists in many other areas in the world, in many other countries, and then start giving sentences that people are going to look and say, geez, I could lose my license not for 6 months or a year, but for 5 to 10 years.
Well, last year, when Alberta started to mandate a .05 legislation, you brought some reporters down to CPS, and we did a dosing program where I had 2 drinks over the course of an hour. This was all watched over by CPS. Yep. And I know that I only reached about .035, and I was starting to feel unsafe. So I can't even imagine what .08 would look like. So I agree with you on that.
Well, a lot of people, believe it or not, a lot of people, by the time they hit .08, people are falling asleep. People are totally incapable of driving. But the bad thing about impaired driving is that you knew you shouldn't be driving at .035. Yeah. One more drink, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm fine. I'm a better driver now. And that's the issue that contributes to so much impaired driving, so many of these accidents. And now, add a level of complexity onto that, drug-impaired driving. We need to determine as a country, the government's got to determine, okay, what are the per se levels for drug-impaired driving? We know that more and more, and this is an issue that Colorado's going to have to face.
Certainly.
How are you going to measure impaired driving? And the idea of testing officers to recognize drug impairment doesn't work. That's why we have breathalyzers today, is because in the old days you used to describe the symptoms to a judge and he'd say, okay. But we've gone well beyond that, to where you need an objective assessment of the level of impairment as determined by a machine. We haven't even gone close to that in Canada yet, and they're experiencing that in Colorado. So this problem is going to get worse unless people start getting more serious about it. And I think that the wave of change has to come from citizens who have to start sending letters to their MPs saying enough's enough.
A lot of work to be done, and leading the charge, Police Chief Rick Hanson, thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you.